Hi, I'm Lisa Wallen with Directional Learning, and I welcome you teachers and parents to the Teacher Parent Edition. Today, we're going to be talking about letter R. Have you ever thought that letter R can make different sounds depending on where it is in the word? Like in the word her, it says here, and in the word rat, in the beginning of the word, it says ra. So they make different sounds. So that's what we're going to teach the student today. And guess what? We're going to teach them about bossy R, control R. That's when our tree turns into the red reptile tree. And it's allowed to turn into the red reptile tree when there's a vowel before it. Then it silences the vowel before it, and then it takes over the sound. Notice it turned into a red letter and it's making a short sound. So that's what we're going to do with our letter R today. We're going to teach two sounds when it turns into the red reptile tree and when it's in the beginning of the word. It's just a tree. It doesn't turn into the red reptile tree because there's no vowel before it. All right, for this you'll need a whiteboard, markers, an eraser. You can go to directionallearning.com and you can download our clip art to teach your student how to decode. All right, let's go teach the student about letter R and how it turns into bossy R and it controls the sound. So next, what I like to do is I like to start off teaching the student letter R in the beginning of the word. And you can say I have a word here. I've already decoded it for you. You remember these numbers mean that this is the beginning of the word, middle of the word, the end of the word. And you can tell it's going to be a one-syllable word because there's one red letter, and they're going to know it's a short sound because there's a blue fly next door. So we already have it decoded. Now they're going to read it, but they have to know this sound here before they can read it. So this sound here, I tell them in order, this is letter R here, it's going to turn either into the red reptile tree or remain a regular tree. That's the choices when you have letter R. So in order for it to become the red reptile tree, there has to be a red letter before it or in front of it. Okay, is there a red letter here? There isn't. So that cannot turn into the red reptile tree. So when it's in parking spot 1, it can't turn into the red reptile tree. I just tell them that from the get-go. So it's just going to remain a tree. And trees we mark off brown because trees are most of the time brown, right? And here's a tree here, right? That looks like a tree for them. So that's kind of what I do for them. Then I tell them, so guess what sound this is going to make? This is going to simply make the R sound, and I have a couple ways for them to remember that sound. I tell them, notice it's parked in parking spot 1. Whenever it's parked in parking spot 1, you're going to make the tree look like a tree. You're going to give them a brown pen. You're going to decode it brown. And an easy way to remember that is dogs like trees, right? So the first thing a dog does is it runs up to the tree, and guess what it does? It barks at the tree. And when it barks, its bark sounds like this. Rough, rough. Now listen to that word, rough. Listen to the beginning part. It says ra, ra. So that's the sound, okay? So, and notice how I said first thing the dog does? Dog's only able to run up to the tree when it's brown or when it's parked in parking spot 1, and it will bark at the tree, rough. That's the sound, ra. Okay, so it's an easy way for them to remember that sound. So then now they can touch the word rest, rest. And if you want to make it even more multisensory for them to remember the sound, you can take them outside and have them touch the trunk of the tree here and ask them how it feels on their hands. And they may say, it's rough. Tell them that's the key word. You're right, it feels rough. Now say the beginning part of rough, ra. So that's the sound. So it just kind of makes it more multisensory for the ones that need to learn it in a multisensory way. Okay, another way to look at it is it looks brown, it looks like a tree. They can imagine it feeling rough, and that's the key word, rough. So however they want to think about it. Okay, so that's how I would teach letter R in the beginning of the word. I wanted to show you something really quickly with R blends parked in parking spot 1. Notice it's in the beginning, and we said when you find an R, letter R in the beginning, it's going to make the R sound. You can prove it to them. Have them look at the letter before. There is a letter before, but is it a red letter? Is it a vowel? It is not. So it can't be the red reptile tree. It has to be a regular tree. So give them the pen to trace it brown. And then now they know the sound is ruh, because remember the key word is rough. Say the first part, ruh. So now to blend it, they'll say this sound, and blend it. Duh, ruh, dra. So the word is dra, ip, drip. So our blends are easy to teach to the student now. They'll know what sound to make for letter R. So now that you taught your student the sound that letter R can make when it's in the beginning of the word, it makes the R sound. Now tell them, do you notice that when we have ER, it's not the first letter anymore? So when it's not the first letter and there's a red letter before it, notice there's a vowel before it, guess what it does? It silences the vowel and it turns into the red reptile tree. So notice it has roots to our red reptile tree. Well, the elephant stands on the roots of the tree and the tree is going to cry its baby sound. And the tree is only going to grow a little bit. It's going to sound like this when it grows. Doesn't it sound like it's crying? And the same thing's going to happen when the Indian elephant's standing on the roots of the tree. It's going to say And same thing with the up guy. When he's standing next to the tree, it's going to say So we're going to show you how to decode these sounds. So let's go learn how to decode ER, IR, UR. Next, we're going to decode with the student ER, and then we'll move to IR, and then the sound UR. And the great thing about all of these sounds, they all make the same sound, and we're going to decode them the same way. And let's go ahead and start off with ER. And if you have younger students, it's great to leave the pictures there because it shows them the characters of who they are. So let's decode ER first. And if you haven't decoded with your student, you want to teach them how to decode first. We have a video on that where it teaches you how to decode. And that's what we're going to do with these shapes here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find the red letter, which we call the vowel. So that is the vowel. Then we're going to simply look next door. And next door is a consonant, they might say. And our consonants we mark blue, but we also call this the tree. So it's a tree. So when it's a tree, we don't mark it blue. We do something different. I tell them to look before it or in front of it, and there's a red letter. Whenever you have a tree and you have a red letter or vowel before it, then guess what? This is simply going to turn into the red reptile tree. So it's actually going to steal the sound. So I would just give them a red pen and I would have them trace it just like that. Notice they traced it, so now it has become the red letter. Next, I tell them that we're going to give the tree roots. So I give them a brown pen and I have them make roots for the tree. Nothing fancy, just some roots. They could be straight lines, but I do tell them to make the root touch the elephant side. So you want to put a root over there. They can do more roots if they want. So however they want to do it, there's no right or wrong way. Then I tell them, now that it became the red reptile tree, guess what? It has superpowers. And guess what? It's going to be the bossy R and control the sound. So it's going to simply silence the elephant. So you can have them silence the elephant because it has superpowers. So it can do that. Then we have to figure out the sound that it's going to make. Well, now that it's a red letter, it can either make a short sound or a baby sound or a long sound. So it has superpowers to do that. So how we can kind of tell the sound, I tell them, is notice that the elephant is standing on the roots of the tree. Well, when the elephant's standing on the roots of the tree, then the tree is going to cry its baby sound. Which one's the baby stick? This is the baby stick. So they could drag it and put above it, or they can get a pen out and draw it. That's what I'm going to do, draw it, because it's going to make its baby sound. And I tell them, notice that elephant is standing on the roots of the tree. Well, when the elephant stands on the roots of the tree only grows a little bit. So I'll show them, I'll make a small stick. Now that shows them the size that it's going to be. And it tells them that it's going to cry. And I tell them when it cries, it sounds like this. It sounds like the tree is only going to grow a little bit. And when the tree grows a little bit, its branches kind of creak. So it would sound like this. And it sounds like it's crying. That's the sound it would make. Doesn't it sound like something crying and something creaking? So that's the sound it would make. So when you see ER, you're going to say When the elephant standing on the roots of the tree, tree's going to cry its baby sound, and it's going to crow, and it's going to sound like this, Now the great thing is we're going to move to IR, and IR, it's going to be decoded the same way. So if it's decoded the same way, it's going to make the same sound. So the first thing we do is we look for the red letter, the vowel. We put that underneath there. We look next door, and it's a tree, because remember we called this letter the tree. Well, if there's a red letter before it, then it becomes the red reptile tree. So I give them the red pen, they trace it just like that. They put roots on the tree, and this becomes really fun for them. And now they know it's the red reptile tree, which has superpowers. So now it can simply silence the Indian elephant. And they know that's what these shapes are. When you put a triangle above a letter, it's going to silence it, because they learned that during decoding. So it silences this letter, and now we have to figure out the sound. Well, there's an Indian elephant standing on the roots of the tree. It's pretty big, so the tree is going to cry its baby sound. Which one's the baby stick? This one. So we build a baby stick, a short stick, and when it grows and when it cries, it's going to sound like this. Here are the tree branches, creaking and crying. So the sound is Notice ER and IR are making the same sound. They both make the same sound. Now we're going to move to UR. So let's put that up there. Same thing, we're going to decode it. Find the red letter, find the vowel. So they'll do that. They'll simply look next door. So have them look next door. There's a tree. Remember, if there's a tree, guess what? It's going to turn into a red letter. So match it here. So that's red. So make this red. So I'll give them the pen. They'll do that. They'll know that it's going to simply become the red reptile tree who bosses the vowel and controls the sound. So now, guess what? It has superpowers, so it's going to silence the up guy. So he can silence the up guy, then he needs to make a sound. But remember, he's a red letter, so he can make a short or a long sound. Well, the up guy is standing on the roots of the tree, so guess what? Guess what sound he's going to make? And you want to make sure that when you do the roots, that there's some roots over there so that it shows that he's standing on it, especially for the first time. So he's going to cry its baby sound because the up guy's standing on the roots, and it's going to grow just a little bit. And when it grows and cries, it's going to sound like this. See how you gave it a short sound because it's a baby sound? So now they know that this says this says this says So they all make the same sound. So now you just tell them, notice when the elephant, Indian elephant, and up guy is standing next to the tree, then guess what? The tree's going to cry its baby sound. And when it cries and grows, it sounds like the tree's creaking. They all make the same sound. So ER, IR, UR all make the same sound. And notice that the elephant is silent, the Indian elephant is silent, the up guy is silent, and they're all red trees, and they have roots, and they only grew a little bit. Our picture's the same, so that's why they're making the same sound. So next, I would simply have them decode 3 words. I'd put 3 words on the whiteboard for them just like this. One with ER, IR, UR, and I would use real words. Then I would have them decode our first word. So I'd say, we're going to decode this first word here, so let's number the word. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 letters, and I only have 3 parking spaces. So that tells us that 2 letters are going to live together. Well, our R-controlled words, has ER in it, they're going to live together. We call these R control words too, or R control syllables. So ER will live together. So let's number it. This is the beginning sound, and let's separate it. ER is going to live in the middle, and our ending sound is here. So then they have numbered our word. These numbers mean direction. This is the beginning of the word, middle of the word, end of the word, and they just learned that ER is going to live together. Okay, so now they're going to look for the red letter, the vowel. There's the vowel, so they're going to do something like that. Then they're going to look next door, because we always look next door when we decode. And what do you have here? You have the letter R, or we call it the tree. So there's a vowel before it. So guess what it turns into? It turns into the red reptile tree. So give them a red pen and they will trace it, and then give them a pen to make roots for the tree. So now it's the red reptile tree. And the red reptile tree gets its superpowers because it's turned into a red letter. And guess what it's gonna do? It's gonna silence the vowel before it. So silence the vowel. Silence that first vowel. Then we have to figure out the sound it's gonna make. Well, the elephant is standing on the roots of the tree, so the tree is only gonna grow a little bit. And do you remember the sound, what it sounds like when it grows a little bit? It says, so that's the sound, So then now they can touch it and read the word. Heard. The word is heard, and you might want to give them a sentence with this type of heard because there's two different ways to spell it, so there's two meanings. I always use any opportunity to teach them vocabulary when they're decoding. Then you're going to ask them, how many red letters in this word? And this is the tricky part. Well, there's 1, 2 red letters. We have to figure out how many syllables in this word. Well, we usually count the vowels to figure out how many syllables. There's 1, 2, but this one's silent, so that one doesn't speak. But there's a red letter, so we have 1 red letter. So that would be a 1-syllable word. So you just taught them how to decode a word with ER. Now tell them, did you notice that this makes the sound? Then you're going to move to the next word, okay, for them to decode. Same thing. They're going to number it to give it direction with our numbers, parking spaces here. And let's number it. This is the beginning sound, and IR is going to live together. That's the middle. And here's our ending sound. Then they're going to look for the red letter, the vowel. There's the vowel there, because a word always has to have a vowel, right? Then they're going to look next door. There's a tree there, and there's a vowel before it. So what's the rule? It becomes the red reptile tree. Give them a pen to trace. They can make roots for our tree. Then it becomes the control R. So guess what? It has superpowers. It's going to silence the Indian elephant. So silence the Indian elephant, and then we have to figure out the sound that the tree is going to make. Is it going to make a long sound or a short sound? Well, remember, there's an Indian elephant standing on the roots of the tree, and that Indian elephant's pretty big, so our tree is just going to grow a little bit, and it's going to cry its baby sound. Which one's the baby stick? That one. So they can either drag that or they can make their own, and that sound when that tree's growing a little bit and it's crying, it says so that's the sound. Then they can touch the word bird. How many red letters in the word? There's 1, 2, but there's only 1 we're hearing from, so that would be a 1-syllable word. So see how our decoding is very similar? You want them to see that this said and so did ER. Okay, let's move to a word with UR. Okay, so same thing. They're going to number the word. There's our beginning sound. There's our middle sound. And there's our ending sound. Then they're going to find the red letter, the vowel. Then they're going to look next door and see it's a tree and there's a vowel before it. So now it becomes a red reptile tree. So this makes it kind of fun for the student. Then you're going to give them roots. Then they have to, because this became the red reptile tree, it's powerful, right? It has superpowers. It's going to silence the up guy, and now it's going to take over the sound. And the sound, they have to figure out, well, there's an up guy standing on the roots, so it's going to cry its baby sound. So see how that makes it simple for them? We decoded it the same way. So its tree's going to grow a little bit. It's going to say It cries just like an ER said IR said now you are. Now they can touch the word earn, turn. The word is turn. And how many red letters in this word? Well, this one's quiet, so this one counts. So there's 1. It's a 1-syllable word. So now you can tell your students, just remember when the elephant, the Indian elephant, and the up guy is standing next to the tree is only going to grow a little bit, and it's going to cry its baby sound. And notice that ER, IR, UR all make the same sound, and when we decode them, we decode it the same way. So that's kind of how I teach ER, IR, UR to them when they're decoding. I also have some students that tell me the story that sometimes when the tree of the roots will wrap around the elephant, and that's why the elephant is silent. So they'll tell me that the same thing with the Indian elephant. The tree wraps its roots around the Indian elephant and the Indian elephant becomes silent. Same thing with the up guy. So it's kind of a fun story for them to follow along, and they'll know why our vowel becomes silent. So you can teach that to them as well. Now that you know how to teach your student how to decode words with ER, IR, UR, and you know how to teach them the sound to make when they encounter letter R in the beginning of a word. So we have a list of words that you can work with your student on. And we also suggest doing nonsense words with your student. Make sure you subscribe to Directional Learning because we'll be posting all our videos there. Our next videos will be posting there is sounds ARNOR. Remember, we have a whole reading and spelling program, so make sure you subscribe to Directional Learning.